Welcome to Bound by Books. I am one of your hosts, Danielle Bannister. I also write under Danny Bannister, and I write all the romance, suspenseful, steamy, and sweet. And I am joined today by Tina Moss. Tina, tell everyone, what is it that you write?
Hello, I am sci-fi romance author Tina Moss, who also is dabbling in paranormal romance once again on a new project, but primarily I am all about the spicy aliens.
Love it. Alien pickle. Gotta love it.
Gotta have some alien pickles. So how are
Gotta
you
love it.
doing, Danielle? What's going on with you?
We are bracing for some really, really bitter cold, like
Oh,
pipe freezing type cold, and it's been pretty mild here in Maine, all
yeah.
things considered. So we've been a little spoiled. So I'm a
Yeah.
little grumpy
I was like,
that,
where's the wood? Gotta knock on wood because it's been
yeah,
a mild
yeah,
winter here too.
exactly,
So
exactly. So yeah, we're gonna try to babysit the pipes and hope for the best. What about you?
yeah, oh man, I'm so over winter and I feel like it's really just getting into the thick of it. February seems to be the worst month for
It
that.
is. It
So,
is. Really, February is the worst month in New England in terms of weather,
yeah.
and we should know that. But I think we always get like a little hint of like a taste of what spring is. The
Yes.
sun is coming back, and we have that odd warm day, and the sun melts. And like, yes, spring is on the way. But then we get the 2 feet of snow, and I'm like, crap.
Yeah, I'm in New York, so I'm not getting 2 feet, not
You don't know
since I was a
that. It could
kid.
be.
No,
You don't
no,
know.
no. It's out into the universe. Not getting 2 feet of snow. Not getting 2 feet of snow. But other
Mhm.
than that, I'm going. By the time this podcast is up, I'll actually be coming back. But I'll be in California for the weekend. My brother is getting his engagement party. He's getting married in the fall, so very exciting things, but also exhausting.
Yeah, you're gonna need like a vacation from your little
it,
mini vacation.
that
You're
is
just gonna
always the
be
way.
completely. I don't know why traveling exhausts you so much. I mean, because you're
Uh,
sitting primarily a lot of the time. Why are we so tired from
I
just sitting?
no, I love to travel, but man, it can wipe you out.
Yeah,
And I'm
yeah.
tired before I leave, so I don't know if that's a good sign.
Oh my goodness. Well, today on our podcast, we are going to talk about something that every author needs, even the introverts like
Yes.
myself, and maybe even more so than others. Uh, it's author community.
Hmm.
And I know author community can seem like a sort of a broad term, but we'll kind of dive in a little bit about what we think about when
Yeah.
it comes to author communities. But and if somebody was maybe new to the world of writing and they heard us talking about author communities, what would you sort of broadly describe an author community as?
That's a good question. And I know we've talked about this on the podcast before, but we've never done a deep dive into it. So I'm
Yeah,
excited for
yeah,
today. But I would say an author community, if you think about it from two perspectives. One is from a business perspective, and that is your normal networking, right? Building your network of people around you that will support you and that you can also support in turn.
yeah.
It's very much like that. And then on the more social side of it, it's also just finding people who understand what this crazy job is and the very specific things that come with it that don't really exist in other jobs. So it's so important to have because author life can be so isolating. It's very much like you're in the bubble, as we call it, when we go into that kind of creative mindset, that
Absolutely.
having those connections is really vital to not only your career, but also to your mental health and making sure that you're staying on top of those things. What do you
Yeah.
think, Danielle?
No, I absolutely agree, 100%. I mean, it's that social piece where you're checking sort of your mental health. Like, am I doing the things that, I should be doing? Am I, it's that sort of checking in with yourself, but that business piece too of, oh, these are the things that I should be doing. Not that necessarily the should be, but these are probably the things I really, need to be focusing on. And sort of that social piece can help you rein it back and be like, okay, you're stressing too much about that, or so I think there's there's sort of a twofold, you're getting stuff from it, but you're also sort of giving back to these communities. And I think that's a very important piece to author communities. You can't just be a one-way participant
Right.
in an author community. You can't just be on the outside looking in. You've got to, give back too. It's not just a let me take all the information but never give anything back. It's sort of a two-way street. I
Yeah.
would say anyway.
I agree. And I heard something recently on one of the social media videos. It was a entrepreneur talking about his business. And he said something that really stuck with me. You can't scale up alone. And I think that's the danger sometimes of being an author, especially an indie author. We have this mindset of like, I can do it all, right? But that's
Well, we
not
have to do
realistic.
pretty much everything on our own, right? So it's kind of
It's true.
ingrained in us, right? Yeah.
Yeah. It's definitely born out of necessity, but having the mindset of always doing it alone is going to be very restrictive again in your career because it's very true. There's no business that is truly a one person business, especially as you get to higher levels of success monetarily and otherwise. It really to build a business, you need people. You need people who you trust and who will be supportive and that you can also support and help them and their careers grow. So that's that business side again. That's I feel like I've been hit in the face with even more in 2023. Like I've kind of always known this, but I am a very like, do it yourself type of person. So over the years I've had to learn in running the small press, letting go of certain things and passing on certain things to for other people to do. But it was definitely a struggle in the beginning. And even now I reach like higher and higher levels of getting out to people and networking in ways that if you would have, met me 10 years ago, Tina would have been like, no, I can do it all. It's fine. And now I'm very much of a different mindset. So I think it is important, especially in the beginning of your career where it can feel like you're so isolated and everything is so overwhelming. And oh my God, how am I going to do this thing of publishing books to really connect with others? So that's kind of like my breakdown of community fostering.
No, I absolutely agree. I think what might be interesting is for us to sort of dive down a little bit into like the specific author communities because it's not just one thing
No.
necessarily that creates an author community. They each sort of have their own purpose and their own function, and being a part of as many or as few as feels right for
Mm-hmm.
you. Just because we mention all of these doesn't mean that these are all the ones you should be, navigating toward, but you should pick a couple of these, I think, to just kind of start somewhere. Because it's, I think, gonna save your sanity in the
Yes.
long run if you don't have one already. I guess
Absolutely.
the first obvious one maybe that most people might think about are the social media sort of
Mm-hmm.
outlets, Facebook groups maybe that are designed specifically for authors. They're usually business generated, groups, focusing on certain topics
Mm-hmm.
or,
Organizations or
right.
broken down by genre.
Yes.
Depends.
So yeah, so like if you're a paranormal writer, there's writer groups out there so that this is more of a talking shop sort of thing. So you're sort of keeping up with trends in that way, but you're getting support and learning how things are done, like what covers maybe are trending, what blurbs are trending. You're able to pick up things that if you weren't a part of those groups, you might miss out on,
Yeah.
right?
I think
Yeah.
Facebook groups too are kind of like the old guard of the book publishing world. It's like the first
Yeah.
thing that we had when indie
Yeah.
publishing really
It
was on the
is.
rise.
Yeah.
So those are very well established groups with just a ton of information from literally your debut author all up until your six-figure, seven-figure author will be in some of those groups. My personal favorite is 20 books to 50K. I think
Yep.
it's one of the most informative.
A
Also,
lot of information there.
oh my God, so much.
Yeah.
But also with these groups, a lot of the times the groups will then have conferences that you can go to in person. Sometimes these groups will have local events that are smaller or local groups. They can be linked to professional organizations like SFWA or RWA, etc. And those then chapters in your local community. So there is also a face-to-face aspect if you're not just, looking for just virtual, but a lot of this stuff is virtual and it is convenient to have from your home. There's also Romance Author Mastermind is a good one I can think of for romance authors. But there's so many. So many.
And there are like even like local chapters for different types of groups. Like I know like romance writers, there's lots of different chapters that you can join that are organizations that, have newsletters of their own and they have their own meetings. Like even in Maine, we have a Maine romance writers that, we have monthly meetings. And so there's a whole different community there. So, a quick Google search about, trying to find author communities in your area based on maybe your specific genre or for new authors or established authors, whatever group sort of you're searching for. Google's pretty good at finding some search results for you. Just, use your discretion, because there's a lot of people that like to also prey on especially new authors. So just, use caution, use some diligence and check to make sure that things seem on the up and up and, try
the
to
beautiful thing too about a group like that is you can search within the group. So let's say you're approached by XYZ organization, right? And you're wondering, oh my gosh, is this legit or not? You can search XYZ organization and chances are pretty good that somebody in the group will have some experience with that and be able to either have posted about it before or certainly can give you more information. So right there, you're automatically having community and networking within one group. And that's just one out of many.
Yeah, there's a lot of like vanity presses that are, really trying to take advantage of authors who don't know better. So this is one way that your author community could save you from, thousands of dollars that you'll never get back. So definitely a good investment to start looking up some groups, whether they're on social media or whether they're, local chapters in your area. That's a good place to start.
The nice part too of being in groups like that, you can also like look for authors who your books are like or who you admire and connect with them through a Facebook chat and just reach out. When I got into sci-fi romance after having read it and researched it and analyzed it to death for 2 years straight, one of the things I did within that time is reach out to authors that I was reading and really liked and said basically like, hey, I'm a paranormal romance author. I'm switching over to sci-fi within XYZ year. I think it was 2021 that I said. And I really love your work and I'd love to connect more with the community. And like within just me doing that reach out, I was invited to this Facebook chat with all these different sci-fi romance authors. I was invited to a dinner that we were having at a conference. Now I'm doing another convention with them. We've done promos together. We do newsletter swaps all the time. And that was like from one reach out to one author who just embraced me into the community and said, come on board and here's everybody.
And you approach that, I think, in the healthy way to approach that. You approached it with I'm looking to do, expand my knowledge. And it's not like give me all your resources. I want to know everything that you know, like give me the answers versus do you have some places I can start to do my own research, right?
It was actually with no like expectation of anything from them. I just admired their work and I said as much. I said, hey, I would love to, I want to talk about you in my newsletter. I want you to come into the group and you want to post a sale. I really enjoy your work. There was nothing like, I just told them who I was and what I was planning to do, but there was no like, hey, can I get this from you? It was literally, this is who I am. I really enjoy your books. Here's what I'm planning. And I would love to help promote you more. And from that, it was basically like, oh, you're a sci-fi romance author, come on in. But there was no expectation. And I think that's a good way to approach it, especially if you're a new author. like I had credentials at the time. I had certain stats that I could show. Not that anybody asked me for that, but there
Right.
was a certain level of like, I had something to offer, right?
Right.
Um, if you're a new author and you don't really have the established platform yet, I think you have to be even more cautious in that situation of not coming off like, give me all the things, because
Right.
nobody has time, even if they are the nicest person in the world, to
No.
do that for you. That's information that you can get from these groups by doing searches and by connecting in the group itself. If you're
Right.
going to do a reach out, really reach out with the intention of giving of yourself. Don't
Right.
reach out with taking. That would be my best
Yeah.
advice.
Yeah. Yeah. Because I mean, this is knowledge that you have to learn. It's
Yeah.
really not stuff that you can just be given. It's stuff you have to learn. You have to research, you have to do trial and error, and you have to figure out what's going to work and what's not. It's a little like cheating on a test, given the answers, but you don't know how you got you don't, you couldn't replicate that answer, right? So it's better to like learn how to do it. And it just leaves a bad taste in somebody's mouth when you're too needy, or you're too grabby, or you're not considerate. So just keeping that keeping that in mind. And I guess along that sort of social media thread, um but it's a little separate. I wanted to talk a little bit about reader and fan groups
Oh, they're so
that
fun.
exist. Yeah, I mean, whether it's, you're creating your own as an author and creating your own fan groups, but also joining other author fan groups, because as an author, you're learning like how successful groups are run, how
Mm-hmm.
unsuccessful groups are run. What is one author doing that's getting a lot of engagement? One is what author doing that's getting crickets? So it's an opportunity to learn and to see how to do some of this stuff, and it's all part of this learning experience. I follow authors all the time, just like, what are you doing?
Yeah.
What are you doing? I want to see what you're doing, because I find that stuff very fascinating, and I like I
And
whenever.
again, I think that's like always, again, always coming at it from the mindset of like, what can I do to give back? Because if you go in with that mindset, right? Like, let's say you go into a really popular authors group and you're like, wow, they're doing all these amazing things. You start taking your notes of things that you can do for your own group. Nothing wrong with that, right? But I think if you also come in with the mindset of just like sending the author a message like, hey, your group is amazing. I love all these things you're doing. Just wanted to say, I think it's so awesome, right? It can really make that person's day.
Yeah, yeah,
And it can also lead to the added benefit of like, this author, maybe they were having a horrible day and they saw that and you just made them feel so good. And now
yeah,
they want to reach back out to you. Maybe they don't.
absolutely.
No expectation whatsoever again, but you never know where that kind of like giving mentality can lead.
Yep.
So doing those things, like even if you're really nervous about it, because I know some authors are very introverted,
Yeah,
very nervous, but it's a virtual format. Think of it
yeah,
like sending a text message. Like it can't,
yeah.
you don't
You
gotta
can
call them.
practice what you're gonna say before you say it. It's,
Exactly.
we can edit it and figure it out. Yeah. No, but I
And
get
then
it. Yeah.
there's other like fan groups, like or genre related reader groups. Like I'm in an alien romance reader group, and they're so funny and fun, and it's like ridiculous memes, and people post different recs and reviews. The only thing that I would say in those situations is remember that you're a reader first in those
Yeah.
groups and an author
Yeah.
second, and you
Yep.
want to be very respectful of the group's rules.
Yep.
Sometimes they allow authors to post open promos on certain days. Sometimes if you want to do like a takeover in the group, you have to, you message the admins and you ask them
Right.
about that. But
Follow the rules.
yes. Yes, yes, yes,
Follow
yes.
the rules. Yeah. Don't be one of the authors behaving badly. This isn't your, fan group, reader group. This is somebody else's. So behave accordingly.
Seriously. Seriously. And for some of I know that the younger authors, the Gen Zers, definitely like Discord. I feel like,
Yep.
we had our Facebook moment for a long
Yeah.
time, and now all of a sudden the rise of
Yeah.
Discord has kind of taken place, and
Yep.
it's almost like, to me, Discord is like a combination of a Twitter, but a Twitter
Yep.
in a side of a Facebook group, because it moves very
Yeah.
fast.
It does. Yeah.
The conversations move very quickly, and there's different threads for different ideas. I'm not personally a Discord fan, but I know a lot of authors have a
I
lot of
tried it
success.
for one group. I tried it. I'm like, this is overwhelming. I would never get anything done just trying to keep up on all of the comments. I'm like, no,
Yeah.
I for my own sanity and getting stuff done, I had to leave that particular group. I'm like, I wish you all well, but y'all talk a lot and I can't keep up. I got chapters to write. And so, yeah.
But I think Sherry likes it a lot. I think she does Discord. So.
And it might be finding the right Discord for, maybe the Discord that I was in was just a massive, and there was a lot of people and it just became overwhelming because there's too many people in it. But
right. I also know Clubhouse is still around. Marianne loves
I was
Clubhouse.
going to ask about Clubhouse. Is that still around? Because for a while that was a thing. And even that felt like, oh my God, this is a huge time suck. Like I could see myself spending far too much time listening to things and not getting anything done. So I backed out of it for that reason. I mean, it was a great premise, but it was too much of a time suck.
Yeah, but I think Marianne still uses it and has connected with people there too.
Yeah.
So that's
and that's a great way to grow. Absolutely, grow those author connections. And in the time that I was there, I made lots of author connections, but it was just like
too much.
Yeah. Too much. And I guess on sort of if we're talking about those specific types of TikTok is another sort of
me and TikTok.
Yeah, you're far more active on the TikTok than I am. I'm still only at the once a day, and I'm just impressed that I'm still going once a day. I'm surprised I'm still there.
I'm a sucker for TikTok. I really like the BookTok community. It can have negative aspects to it, but in my experience, it has raised so many amazing conversations about publishing, so many important issues that I feel like we've talked about before, but never with such momentum behind them, because BookTok is a force to be reckoned with now. It's in Barnes and Noble stores, has their own BookTok displays and tables. So you can't deny the power of BookTok and TikTok right now. So that's kind of where the momentum is at the moment.
Yeah. And I know a lot of, especially introverted authors, might be nervous to check out the platform. You can create an account and you could just hover and you can just watch and you can learn. And I mean, I know I did that for at least a month or two before I posted my first video. I wanted to know, what are people posting about? What are they talking about? What are, how to use the buttons? My first TikToks were horrible because I had no idea what I was doing. But, I don't know how to do any of the fancy edits or the weird things like that, but I know how to hit record and I know how to do basic things enough to get content out once a day.
There's also plenty of people in the BookTok community who don't post videos at all. They just like and comment on other things, but that's the nice part too. You can have conversations in the comments section, and then there's also like trains of video where what's called stitching or duetting or things like that, where you can connect one video to the next video to have a conversation, and then there's comments on that. So to me, TikTok feels not only like a fun place to connect with others, but also it does foster a lot of community, basically because of the serious nature of the conversations on there. Very akin to book Twitter in its early days, before it kind of spiraled out of control.
Right.
Like
right. And that's a good place to look at. Yes.
A little bit of chaos right now.
Yeah. Yeah. I've dropped my Twitter account. I can't even believe it, but I dropped it when I found out that they were operating in dev mode, and I work in coding and I know what dev mode is. I'm like, oh no. No. Done. So,
but sadly, back in the day, Twitter was another place that authors very much connected. Absolutely. I remember I was a Pitch Wars mentor when Pitch Wars was running, and met
Pitch Wars, right?
Some authors who are like some of my favorite people. Also the forums when we had chat forums, if you remember that. But that's going back a little bit too far.
Yeah.
So that has been replaced, I think, at this point.
Yeah. Yeah. No, I mean, and that's sort of the thing too, is that the platforms of where author connections are happening are ever evolving and ever changing. And so the only way to make sure that you're still hanging on to your author community is being involved in one and kind of seeing where the trends are going, and where that fits for you. Not everybody is keen to record themselves or talk, so maybe TikTok isn't the place where you're going to find your community. Maybe you are somebody who is more auditory, and maybe Clubhouse is the platform for you. You just gotta, I think, find something and
Mhm.
start there. You can find communities like the community that we started of the four of us that started. I mean, we ended up taking a class together that nobody knew each other. We all ended up taking a class together, and then formed the group from that, more to kind of study the
Yeah,
material together.
essentially we were a study group.
We were the nerdy study group. And we formed our own sort of author community, and we check in on a fairly regular basis, couple times a month, and we have an ongoing chat that we're any problems, or hey, I wrote this blurb, can you take a look at it? Those types of things are invaluable as an author. Is this cover too sexy? Is this to have somebody to run that feedback with, especially if it's somebody. And I guess here's the thing: if you're going to be having an author community that sort of is that in person and sort of virtual sort of connection, I would suggest, and I'd be curious to know if you agree or disagree with this. I would suggest whatever that group is, if you're doing it that way, that the people in your group are at or near about where you are career wise.
You were reading my mind.
Yeah.
You
Okay.
were reading my mind. I was thinking the same thing. We
Yeah.
were all very similar in terms we've been around the block a while. We've been in publishing for a while.
Yeah.
None of us were newbies in the group. So, and there's nothing wrong with being a newbie. We all start
Right.
somewhere.
No, right. Exactly.
But there is something to, like, none of us were asking the questions of, well, how do I upload my book, or how do not the basic beginner questions that so many people have when you're first starting out. So I do think it's really important to have people who are around your level of experience. It's also nice, of course, especially if you're new, if you can hook up with a mentor. There are different groups that will pair mentors and mentees together. There are different organizations that will run programs like that. There's also sometimes that, more experienced authors will just be like, hey, I want to help out some newer authors. And they'll set up a group, or they'll set up, a one-on-one thing. Sometimes they'll charge for that. So you have to be careful and make sure that the value, if you want to spend money for that, the value is there. I'm not saying that it's not, certainly these people can add value, but you got to make sure. But sometimes they'll just do it for free as a pay it forward type thing.
Right.
But there is a lot of value, I think, in having a mentor. You certainly don't need to have one, but when you're forming an author group, I think it's kind of like this amazing thing to have a bunch of newbies together and kind of all stumble through that journey together.
Yes, I very, very distinctly remember publishing my first novel and not having a clue doing it. And I knew one person who had done it very recently. I'm like, what did you do? And she walked me through everything. She's like, I have no idea if I did it right, but this is what I did. And so we sort of taught each other. I'm like, oh, I tried this. Maybe you should try this too. And, it's you stumble through it together. You each learn a nugget of something, and then you can share it. And that's I guess sort of where that sort of the bartering piece, I guess, comes into the author communities, because there's always going to be an author who knows more than you do. And you're, believe it or not, going to know something that maybe another author doesn't know. And, maybe how to format ebooks really well, and another author doesn't. And another author is really good at Photoshop and you suck at it. You can sort of barter things. I'll make you a graphic if you format my ebook. You know what I mean? So there are things that you can give and take with. You're giving back. I have an author friend who's pretty good at Facebook ads. I'm really good at planning. She sucks at it. So we're sort of swapping skill sets, and neither one is like offended by it. It's like, oh yeah, you know how to do that? Great. Let me show you how to do this, and I'll show you how to do this. And
and that is also a form of building your business, because even if you are a traditionally published author, right? Nobody is doing everything for you. There is no publisher in the world who's going to do it all for you. Most cases they're going to do a little less than you think they're going to do.
A little.
I'm being nice.
Yeah. Yeah.
So having those connections and making those connections with people who can help you and also who you can help is super important. But going back to that idea of, being in different groups, you don't have to be restricted to one. So let's say you're a debut author and you join a debut group. Maybe it's through one of the places we mentioned, or maybe you're with a publisher and they have their own group. Like for City Owl Press, we have our own author group that authors can join. We also are starting a different group, a mastermind group for City Owl authors who are kind of more advanced in their career and who need other things from us. But the point is, you can do one, and then you can also do like a mixed group. Like maybe there's authors all together and it's debuts and mid-listers and bestsellers, and they're all together. 20 books to 50K is that.
Yeah.
So you can learn from different groups and different people, different things. So don't feel like you're restricted. Oh, you're saying just because I'm a debut, I have to only be with beginners. No, not at all.
Right.
But I think you're going to be asking the same types of questions
Right.
and looking for the same types of answers. So it's helpful to have that together in one place where you can all be like, okay, guess what? I found out this about formatting, or I found out this about distribution, and share the information as you learn.
Yeah. Yeah. And that's why I think it's good for like those small sort of group situations where maybe you're going to meet a couple of times a month or whatever. You can create a Google folder and you share all your resources together, and it's, a place where you go. But I think that smaller group, to me personally, has been like the biggest thing that I latch onto, is that small group, because there are days when you are an author that it all sucks, that everything sucks. Your sales suck, your release sucked, your edits came back and your editor hated it, or you're feeling whatever it is, and you can feel really bad and low about yourself. And having that group that you're, on the same journey with, to be there to lift you up, to say a kind word, to, encourage you not to give up, can make all the difference. I mean, I think anyway. Would you?
Absolutely. Because the one thing I will say is, I'm pretty outspoken on social media, but I still choose what issues and topics I speak on, right? For example, let's say I had a really bad business meeting, so something that went south with a partner. You are never going to see me talking about that online. That is something that I will vent to the people in my life or my author friends about in appropriate spaces. That is not something I'm going to say ever publicly, because it's not appropriate and it's not professional. So that's the kind of thing too, that you get onto social media, and sometimes people, and I'm not saying don't be personal, because I think there is an aspect and a value in showing vulnerability, but you have to be careful with what you do. You don't want to burn bridges. You don't want to be that person who comes off as toxic or is always negative or always complaining.
Right.
You don't want to root for that person. You don't want to buy from that person. So you want to be true to yourself, but you also want to be very careful. And having a group that you trust and that you're able to talk through difficult things with, because publishing can get difficult like any other job. It's really important to have that community to do that with, an appropriate place.
Yeah. No, I completely agree. But then they're also there, on the flip side, they're there to help cheer you on and celebrate those successes, when they come. The first person I want to go to if I something good happens, I want to go to my group, like, I mean, so, because not many people are gonna appreciate those wins in the same way. If they're not an author, they'll be like, yeah, okay, great, you made a list. What does that mean? I don't know what that means, or what.
That's a really
whatever
good,
it is.
That's a really good point, and maybe something we want to talk about in another podcast. But being an author means constantly having to check your ego, right? I really believe that, because you are, as so many people say, you are birthing something into the world, right? You're creating this book and giving it life.
Babies,
essentially. I have moved past that. My books are no longer my babies, but a lot of I'm too old and jaded for that, but a lot of people feel that way. And I think it's very easy to get caught up in the idea that if somebody is doing better than you, it somehow lessens your value.
Yeah.
And I
Yeah.
would caution also to again, jealousy is a normal emotion, but be really careful, especially inside of your author communities and inside of that small author group, that you are not becoming jealous or resentful of that person, because that is your person in this community. You should absolutely want to lift them up and root for their successes and be happy when they do well. And
you got to be Jamie Lee Curtis in those situations.
Yes, exactly. Because I've seen that part of it too. I've been in groups before where things took a negative turn or a nosedive really quickly when somebody was becoming a little too jealous of somebody else. And just be mindful of that.
Yeah. It's a lifting up it's a lifting up, not a pushing down. I mean, there's plenty of room for everybody here. Just because one person succeeds does not equate to you failing.
Exactly.
Not what that means at all.
Yeah. So again, always so if you take away nothing else from this podcast, take away the idea of always give forward, always establish connections with the idea of giving, not taking, lifting up your fellow authors, cheering them on, because you will get it in return. If you, especially when you least expect it, you'll suddenly see that it comes back to you.
Yeah.
All right. Well, I can't think of a better place to stop than that. So thank you guys so much for joining us. As always, if you have any questions, please leave it in the comments below. We'd love to be able to answer them for you. And
or a topic you want us to touch on, let us know.
Yeah. Yes. Should we talk about jealousy in the author community?
Hey, jealousy.
But any questions you have, leave them in the comments, and be sure to tune in next week to Bound by Books. Bye.
Bye.
Wait! Before you go, don't forget to like, comment, and subscribe, and check us out on our website, boundbybookspodcast.com.